So have you ever had a guitar that you regretted selling? The moment you sold it, there was a sinking feeling in your stomach. Maybe you spent a few days, a few months after that wondering what you did, and maybe you even tried to get it back. Well, when you've been through as many guitars as I've been, you can bet that there have been some regrets along the way. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you the top 10 guitars that I regret selling. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. I'm Utkarsh Mohan, coming to you from Singapore. As always, if you like what I'm doing, please do like, subscribe and share. It really helps. Quick point on this, right? We live in the attention economy. Hundreds of things are competing for people's attention all the time. And as a consequence of that, a lot of content becomes terrible content. It's just there to attract eyeballs. So if there is good content, which is there that you like, honestly, the best thing you can do is support that good content just through this just through a small few actions. Anyways, enough of a tangent. So, regretting guitar sales, it is a very common phenomenon. And the reason is, I think a lot of guitar players and a lot of guitar, I wouldn't say collectors, just guitar players, go through phases. We go through phases where we're acquiring a lot of guitars, and then we go through phases where we are selling a lot of guitars. At some point in time, you feel like, oh my God, I have too much stuff. I don't need all this. And you sell a lot of things. And similarly, sometimes you just buy a lot of things because you're just in that phase. I've been through a few of these cycles. So I'm going to tell you about the 10 guitars, and each of these has taught me perhaps a slightly different lesson. So we'll get through each of them. So at number 10, it has to be the first guitar I ever sold. That's the guitar I regret. And the guitar is a Fender, made in USA, Highway 1 Strat. Now, a few things. I got this guitar by accident. If you guys know me, I had an Epiphone Les Paul for the longest time. That was my number one. Then a friend of mine, he had bought a Highway 1 Strat. We didn't know what it was. We just knew it was a made in USA Strat. He'd bought it, but he had to go. He was shifting to Europe for work. He didn't want to take the guitar along. He didn't really play guitar much anyway. So he offered it to me at a very good price. And though I was not in the market for a guitar, I just took it from him. I almost thought of it as I'll kind of buy it from him and he'll buy it back from me, because I was really not into Strats. And so I had the Highway 1, and for 6 years, the guitar just lay there because I didn't play it. And I only had one other guitar. I only had the Epiphone Les Paul. But for me, I just loved the humbucker sound, and I just did not get the single coil sound at all. Like, I had no interest in it. It sounded weak, it sounded anemic. And remember, I was very much a high gain metal player. So the Highway 1 just sat there. This is from say 2009 till about 2015. In 2015, I started getting into guitars. I started discovering guitar YouTube. And suddenly I wanted something else. Not a Strat, but I wanted something else. I wanted to get a double guitar, the Jimmy Page guitar. That was the second guitar I bought. But things being what they were, I had to generate funds to buy said guitar. So the Highway 1 Strat had to go. And the irritating thing with the Highway Strat, it actually wasn't irritating, but it felt irritating to me at the time, is that the finish kept chipping off. It was I was like, what is going on? Like, I've not used this guitar. Why is the finish, scratching off? Why is it so fragile? Turns out, the Highway 1 Strat comes with a nitro finish, which is a very desirable option, particularly on a USA Fender. But to me, the person who didn't know anything about guitars, was like, what is this? The person I sold it to, I actually sold it at a discount, because I was like, it's damaged. It's a damaged guitar. It's got like scratches and stuff. Who's going to buy this damaged guitar, this used guitar from me? Shows you how the market works, right? That you don't know. There was a Filipino musician who was visiting Singapore, and he says that he'd been looking for a USA Strat at a good price for a long time, and he was so happy that I was selling one at a very good price. It was a very good price. I think it was equivalent of maybe 500 or 550 US dollars at the time in 2015. So it was a good price, definitely, for a US Strat. He was really happy. And I was like very apologetic to him. I was like, I'm so sorry, it's got all these scratches and everything. He's like, it's okay, I like relic guitars. I like, what does that mean? He said relic guitars. I had no clue. He didn't explain to me that guitars that look old are actually desirable. I was like, okay. good for me. I was happy somebody's buying it, even though it's damaged. Little did I know. Little did I know a few things. Little did I know that one, the Highway one is a particularly desirable Strat as far as Strats go. The nitro finish, and of course, recently Corey Wong has been. I think that's the one he played, and hence that it's made it even more desirable. Secondly, it shows you the difference between guitar players and guitar buyers or guitar collectors. Because to me, at that time, as a pure guitar player who had one guitar, the Les Paul, and this, I had no clue what is considered to be good and what is considered to be bad. So a lot of what we think of as good or bad, nitro finish or whatever, is just training. It's just a training that all of this information on the internet gives us. And honestly, if you can step back for a second, you may realize that some things may actually be good, even if the internet doesn't say it is. So most people, the conventional wisdom would say that a guitar finish getting damaged is a bad thing, but as we know, it's a good thing. Very interesting. So that's what I learned with the Highway 1 Strat. Guitar number 9 that I regret selling is the Epiphone Matte Heafy 7 Les Paul Custom. This is the first generation one. It's in black, not the latest ones that came with the Fishman. This came with AMGs. Now, I got this guitar new. I bought it off the local retailer here in Singapore. I've always been into Les Pauls. I've always been into Epiphone Les Pauls, as I just mentioned with my previous guitar. But I wanted a 7-string. I'm slowly getting into 7 strings, and I knew the pitfall of the Matte Heafy, which is it only had a 24 and a 3/4 inch scale length, but I decided to get it nonetheless. I got it, and it had exactly the two main problems that I have with Epiphones. I've talked about this in other videos. It's also afflicted my earlier guitar, but I didn't know better then. But when the time I bought this Matte Heafy, which must have been around 2018 or 2019, I was much more educated in all matters guitar. So the fretwork was terrible after the 12th fret, and it had scratchy electronics. The two perennial problems with almost all Epiphones that I've owned. So at that time, I was a little irritated. I was used to playing, core PRS guitars and much nicer guitars. So I was like, why am I bothering with this cheap guitar when I could be playing something much nicer? I have so many nicer guitars. So I was a little bit irritated at it. I was really hoping for it to be better because I have a soft spot for Epiphone. So I sold it. And when I say I sold it, I put it on the market. It took a long time to sell, surprisingly. But I sold it, and I regretted it, I think, almost immediately, because I realized that, one, it's a fairly unique model. It's quite a nice guitar, other than the bad fretwork and that, because it's got a thick body, it's got a nice heel. It's a unique piece. And secondly, the problems are so fixable. Fixing the fretwork and fixing the scratchy electronics is just a $100 job at most, which was not a problem. So it was a bit short-sighted of me to just sell it, because the main problem with the guitar that all people say is a problem wasn't a problem at all, the scale length. In fact, I think it was quite charming to have a small scale 7-string because the tension was better than you expected. And it had all the advantages of a short scale that you get on a Les Paul, right? The sweet sound, all of that. You had all of that. So I shouldn't have sold it. And these guitars are so rare. Never mind that they've gone up significantly in value since I sold it. But these are so rare that I haven't seen one for sale locally in Singapore since then, since I sold it. So I definitely regret selling this one. Okay, number 8. Gibson Reverse Flying V. Okay, there's so much to say about this guitar. So I had seen this hanging in the local Gibson shop. This would be around 2015, 2016. I had seen it hanging. I had contemplated about it. And then finally I got it. The reason I wanted to get it is I wanted to find a very unusual guitar for a character in a book that I've written. I haven't publicized this book much at all, but I am also separately an author. And the character, I wanted to have for the story, I wanted a distinct, a very, very unusual shaped guitar for the character, and that's where the Reverse Flying V fit the bill. And so my entire plan is, if my character has this guitar, I should also have this guitar, because in case my book takes off or whatever, I have the actual inspiration. I got it. Due to a variety of circumstances, I never got to promote the book. I will do it. Probably when I have a few more subscribers, I will get back to this book that I wrote a few years ago, and I haven't promoted it at all. A lot of life things happened in my life which prevented me from really putting the book out there, launching the book properly. But at that time, since I wasn't doing anything much with the book and the guitar was just lying there, and again, as always happens with us, there's something else that I want to buy, there's something else, I need to generate some cash. So I sold the reverse flying V. And I regret that because, again, a guitar that is so rare, a guitar that is so difficult to find, and honestly, an unusual guitar. And it's not just unusual because of the shape. I would say it's unusual because of the sound. You can actually check out the video on my channel, I think, a few years ago. The interesting thing with that guitar, this reverse flying V, is it sounds like a semi-hollow guitar, even though it's a solid body. So it will be perfect for playing jazz or soft chords or soft leads. Something to do with the shape. I don't know how it affects it. Tonewood skeptics can argue with me all day. I know what I can hear. And that guitar has one of the best jazz sounds I've ever heard. Much better than the ESP 35 that I compared it with. So yeah, I regret selling that guitar. I may try to buy it back. I think they haven't gone up much in value. So if I find one locally, I may just, especially if I find my guitar, I may just buy it back. Let's see. Okay, number 7, Fender Dave Murray Strat. This was one of the first few guitars that I bought, probably in 2015, 2016. Since I'm Indian, as you may know, most Indians born in the 80s are big fans of two bands, Iron Maiden and Metallica. So I got myself a wonderful black Explorer, which it's not the one behind me, it's somewhere else. So I got myself the James Hetfield guitar. It was a Gibson 80s Explorer, 80s inspired Explorer, not the 80s model you get today. It's a different model, Shred X from 2008. And I got myself a Dave Murray Strat. Hero worship right there. The thing with the Dave Murray Strat is it was a humbucker, single coil humbucker guitar, only 3 sounds, but it was a very, very, what should I say? It wasn't a very versatile guitar. To me, it didn't sound like a Les Paul. It didn't sound like anything else. It definitely didn't sound like a Strat. I guess it could play Iron Maiden, but for me, it was like, okay, I don't know. I'm not feeling this guitar. I know it's what Dave Murray likes, but I'm not feeling it. It also had a nitro finish, Strat, etc. And this was the continuation of my trouble with Strats. It would take quite a few Strats that I would run through till I found a Strat that I liked. And the Dave Murray Strat was one of those that I just kind of never gelled with. So I sold it. Sold it at quite a loss, I must say, which was quite silly of me. And again, this was also around the time when I still didn't know about nitro. So the fact that the Dave Murray Strat had nitro and had chipped off it was one of the reasons why I sold it at a discount. Again, did not seem to bother the seller at all. I seem to have not remembered the point about relicking. I was just like, if I'm selling it, I should describe it as what it is. And yeah, there it went. I regret selling the guitar because I think in retrospect with what I know now and what I like about guitars now, I would really like the guitar. I think I would like to have that particular 25.5 inch scale Strat-like guitar with humbuckers in my... maybe if I didn't like the exact humbuckers that Dave Murray likes, I'd put something else. I could see the utility for something like it, but it's gone. And again, haven't seen it for sale since then. Number 6, PRS Tremonti. This is the first Tremonti that I bought. I got it from Peach Guitars in the UK. It was a very unique guitar. It had a quilt top, it had an ebony fretboard, and the only Tremonti I've ever seen with gold hardware, so black and gold. This one was really silliness on my part. And I, in fact, tried to back out of the sale when I was making the sale, but I couldn't quite convince the buyer. So one of those moments where you've just bought too many guitars, done too many things, you need cash. And this was probably a point in time where I'd come down to like too little cash, like literally, less than 1 month's living expenses in my bank account, which is a very poor place to be and not something I recommend for anyone. This was, I think, in December of 2017 or 2018, one of those years. It was December. I was about to go back home to India for a holiday. I had put out a Christmas sale on a lot of guitars that I was trying to sell because I was so short of cash. And this was the one where somebody came. It was a guy who liked Les Pauls. He was concerned whether the neck would be too thin for him. And as he was playing it, I was like, if the neck is too thin for you, don't worry. Don't need to buy it. Because even in that moment, I was getting a sense of what am I doing selling such an incredible, unique PRS guitar at such a cheap price. And then finally, I think attracted by the price, attracted by the way the guitar looked, he said, no, I'm sure I will get used to the neck. And he bought it. And I regretted it on the flight. I literally got on the flight 1 hour after selling it to him and I regretted it. I was like, what did I do? And sure enough, I was to meet this person, like literally I met him last year again, selling a different guitar. Or was it buying? I think I bought something of him. Oh yeah, I bought the PRS Hollow Body 594 of the same guy. And I asked him about the guitar. He said, yeah, I sold it because the neck was too thin for me. And I was like, God. Right? So, yeah. Something I should have potentially bought back. I don't know. It was a regret. I have a Tremonti. I have the original. In fact, it's right behind me. I have the original Tremonti, but I'm a tremolo kind of a guy. So I'd still, if I spot that guitar, I probably will buy it back. Doesn't mean if you have the guitar that you're gonna take advantage of me. But yes, I do like that guitar. Okay, number 5, another PRS. This is a PRS private stock custom 24 Fatback from Japan. Not from Japan in the sense it was made in Japan, but I bought it in Japan. So this was one of the top show guitars that PRS took for the NAMM show. I think it was in 2014 or 15. And there's a video of Captain Anderton and PRS saying that it was one of the most spectacular guitars in the show. I in fact made a video to this effect when I showcased that guitar. Now, the Custom 24 Fatback, that particular guitar was a nice guitar. A really good guitar. It had thicker body, almost like a Les Paul, but a Custom 24. Amazing aqua violet color. So why did I sell it? Actually, I still don't know why I sold it. I think it was, I needed to buy something else at the time. I think it was because I wanted to buy the Graveyard too. I'm trying to remember because some of these stories are getting a little bit foggy now. I remember selling it at a very high price, quite unexpectedly, because I never thought anybody in Singapore will buy a used private stock, but it was such a spectacular guitar, so somebody did buy it off me. And again, this is a guitar, once it was sold, once other things were taken care of, I was like, such a unique guitar, such a unique color, such provenance, being a show guitar with all the documented video history. Why did I sell it? Well, I just did. Sometimes I don't seem to learn. And the guitar, I think it appeared for sale again. I found out it appeared for sale again later when I was looking at a dealer's sold listings, and I found it there. But yeah, that guitar is lost. I don't know who has it, who's playing it. It's an incredible guitar. It's got the playability of a Custom 24 with 24 frets, yet it has a thick neck like a Les Paul, thicker neck than the normal PRS, and a thicker body. Number 4, Ibanez Universe UV777P, 1998. The last guitar I was sold actually, because I've stopped buying and selling guitars since then, almost. This was late last year. So I have an Ibanez Universe 1990. I have the 1998 as well. The 1990 is much better than the 1998, but that does not mean the 1998 is a bad guitar. It just means it's different. And it has the most important Ibanez Universe feature, the early Ibanez Universe feature, which is of the thin neck. Now, late last year, I got into a major guitar buying spree. I bought a bunch of PRSs, bunch of single cut tremolos, and I was really like, I need to do something, I need to sell something. I cannot have so many guitars just from a space standpoint, let alone financial. So I put a few of my guitars up on sale, and this particular guitar was, there was a guy who came to buy it. He seemed very well informed. He seemed like a very good guitar player as well. Uh, and as it turns out, he plays guitar for one of Asia's legacy pop stars. I'm forgetting her name right now. I'm going to put it right here. And he's about to leave on a world tour. Or maybe I don't know if it's a world tour, but it's definitely an Asia tour. But there are a lot of overseas Chinese all over, even in the world. So it's probably a world tour. And he wanted a guitar that can be reliable, can be versatile, and he was looking for an early Ibanez universe for that reason. So I sold it to him. I mean, it was a great thing to sell it to a real working musician. But again, as soon as I sold it to him, I was like, this is such an incredible guitar. I'm selling it for not that much money, about $2,000. In the bigger scheme of things, given that kind of guitar, the kind of quality that guitar is. So, but again, the deal had been done. I sold it, but then after I felt the pangs of selling that guitar a few days later, that's when I took all my guitars off the market, and I decided I'm not selling and buying anymore. I'm just going to take what I have. I have pretty much every combination, anything that I can think of. So that was part of the reason why I've stopped selling and buying guitars, because I was like, there's no point. I regret if I buy something, then I sell it. I regret it. So that's kind of how the journey has been going for me. Number 3, and I'm going to get into some very interesting guitars. Number 3 is the PRS SE277 Baritone. And you might look a little puzzled if you know this channel, because I have featured that guitar in my recent top 10 guitars in my collection. Well, as it turns out, the guitar that I featured is a replacement because I sold the first one I had. So I bought a SE277 Baritone, amazing guitar, the stealth version. This is the one with the quilt top satin finish, ebony fretboard, that limited run in Europe, all the SE guitars of that limited run. Honestly, that is the best SE limited run ever. So I bought the Baritone, I liked it. Again, I don't know for what reason I sold it. I think, again, a moment in time where too many guitars have been bought, need to sell something, put out a bunch of guitars for sale, whichever one sells first, you sell it. So I sold it. My friend actually helped me sell it because I was not in Singapore. I remember there was another guy who came and my friend helped him, and he was a little bit confused because of the tuning. I don't know why he was buying a baritone guitar if he was confused by the tuning, but anyways, he almost didn't buy it, but eventually he bought it after some coddling, which again was a mistake. And then for 2 years, I was like, oh my God, I need this guitar back. And on Thomann of all places, I saw a SE277 Stealth for sale, a B stock for sale. I used to keep crawling different websites, different European websites especially, and I found one for sale. So I bought it immediately. In fact, I think I paid more than I paid for the first one. Doesn't matter. I got it back. It's a great guitar. It has a very unique sound. It sits in a very different place. There's nothing else in the collection quite like it. So yeah, I bought it back. So the PR is SE277. At number 2, another guitar that I bought back, well, almost bought back. So I bought a 7-string Schecter, Jeff Loomis. This was in black with the maple fretboard, and it was a great guitar. And again, one of those moments, I sold it for not too much money. Not that Schecters are very expensive to begin with, but I sold it for like $600 maybe. The person who bought it from me was incredibly happy. He says it was his dream guitar. He was looking for it for a while. So in a way, I'm happy for him. But I was very annoyed at myself a few months later because as I started playing 7-string guitar more and more, I realized that I wanted a longer scale 7-string with a Floyd Rose, which is exactly what that guitar was. I was to eventually get a PRS with the same spec, but if you like a particular spec, sometimes it's good to have more than one guitar with a similar spec. And I was like, that was only 800, 800 Singapore, 600 US. And I sold it, and I cannot find another guitar like that for the life of me. Luckily, recently, maybe 6 months ago, or maybe a little bit more, because I think late last year, I found Jeff Loomis. Not the same color, I found it in the Vampire Satin, not the black gloss, but the same thing, same guitar. I found it, so I bought it immediately. But honestly, I don't like the Vampire Satin color that much, which is surprising given that I love purple guitars and red guitars. I really like the black on maple. It's a very David Gilmour kind of thing. So while I did buy the guitar back, the same model, I do want the black version as well. So that's one of those guitars that I regret selling. I'm definitely going to pay much more than I sold it for, but I think I do want to buy it back at some point in time. And at number one, the stupidest mistake I ever made, it was a really stupid thing to do, is the ESP Phoenix. You guys are going to look at me and you're going to like, what is the ESP Phoenix? Because all of you know the LTD Phoenix. It's a Firebird version of the ESP, of a Firebird version of that ESP makes. But if you look, and I have been looking on Reverb and I've been looking on websites for years, including Japanese websites, ESP made a few ESP Japan versions. This was many, many years ago, 20 years ago. They made a few pieces of this Phoenix. It's a Firebird-like guitar, but a lot more metal, 25.5 in scale. Great neck, typical ESP playability. I got one in Singapore. I don't know where I found it. Somebody had bought it from Japan 10, 15 years ago. He sold it to me, and I sold it on Reverb for the princely sum of $1,000 US, which is way less than what a LTD Phoenix will cost you these days. And this is an original ESP Phoenix, so very, very rare guitar. And I still paid Reverb fees and paid for shipping and all of that. I don't know what I was doing. This was very early on, 2016, 2017. I guess it kicked off my Reverb account in a way because I had no sales on Reverb before that. But still, that is a guitar. Forget that it was sold for $1,000 when the guitar is worth much, much more. It was a guitar that you cannot replace because the ESP Phoenix is rarer than a real Phoenix. It just is that rare of a thing. They just don't exist. And I have been trawling the Japanese market and the Reverb market for years now, 6-7 years at this point. So I don't know what I was thinking at that point. My logic was, I am a Gibson-like player. I like smaller scale lenses. 25 and 5 in scale is not for me. This was very early on in my guitar collecting journey, maybe 2015, 2016, 2017. Such a short-sighted thing to do. A lot of things that I've realized is when you have something unusual that is good, and you're not sure whether you like it yet, sometimes it's worth it to just keep it, because what you don't realize is that you yourself as a player evolve. For me, I've discovered a utility of 25.5 in scale once I started playing lower tunings, etc. So then I do want a 25.5 in scale hardtail guitar, and that would have been the perfect thing, except that I sold it. So yeah, number one guitar that I regret selling simply because it was an amazing guitar. There's no way to get it back again, I would say. And I sold it for a song, has to be the ESP Phoenix. All right, so these have been my stories. I would love to hear from you as well. What are the guitars that you regret selling? Do let me know in the comment section. Do let me know if you like this kind of content, and I'll see you next time.